Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're in the 2024 Acura TLX Type S. The 2024 model year receives a number of updates, mostly to enhance the overall daily drivability of this car, but also supposedly makes it a little bit sharper to drive. I reviewed the 2023 TLX Type S not long ago, but that was on an unfamiliar road where I wasn't able to push the car quite as hard as I wanted. So today, we're going to put this car to the test on my favorite canyon road. So for 2024, the mechanicals are unchanged. We still have this 3.5-liter turbocharged V6, making 355 horsepower, 354 pound-feet of torque, 10-speed torque converter automatic transmission, super handling all-wheel drive, adaptive dampers, and electric power steering. However, for 2024, the Sport Plus mode is now sharper. It should give us better throttle response. That's the only difference in terms of driving dynamics. The rest of the changes are on the inside as well as the exterior design. The front has been facelifted with a frameless grille. The wheels are different now. And in terms of the interior, we have a larger infotainment display. It's 12.3 inches. And we have a heads-up display as standard. Unfortunately, this press car does not have the optional summer tires, so we're stuck with these Pirelli All Seasons, which is definitely not ideal for this type of driving, but I'll try to remove the tires as much as possible from my evaluation of this car. That being said, this car was never about at the limit driving dynamics. It's more of a luxury sedan with some added sportiness. So that's my expectation going into this drive. For example, this engine is mounted mostly forward of the front axle. It is a primarily front drive based all-wheel drive system, but Acura has done a number of things, as I mentioned in my last review, to make this feel sharper than your average front-wheel drive-based all-wheel drive system. For example, this can send up to 70% of engine torque to the rear axle, and from there, it can divert 100% of that torque to either of the rear wheels. Also, that rear axle is overdriven compared to the front axle by about 2.7%, and all of those things should make this car feel a little bit more sprightly, especially given its huge 4,200 pound curb weight. I'm actually quite a fan of the way the TLX is designed on the inside. Very nice materials. We have stitched leather across the dash. These seats are fantastic. They have adjustable bolsters for your back, which actually make these feel a lot more sporty and supportive compared to the seats in my Integra Type S. We have this textured plastic on either side of the center console, which feels and looks really nice. Unfortunately, there is a big swath of piano black plastic around these shift buttons. Not a huge fan of the shift buttons, by the way. I prefer a more traditional gear lever, but I understand why they designed it this way. It just gives more space for other buttons, including this touchpad system, which I've been using it for the last few days, and it is baffling. When you're in Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, it works as you would expect. You would use it the same way that you use a laptop touchpad, but when you're in Acura's own infotainment display, you have to basically put your finger on it and then drag towards the direction of where you want to select the items on the menu, if that makes any sort of sense. It's a really inconsistent experience. I mentioned this in my last TLX Type S video. They haven't changed that for 2024. I'm sure I would get used to it over time, but it's just a design choice that doesn't make any sense. Why give it a different experience when you're in Android Auto and Apple CarPlay as compared to the Acura built-in menu system? Anyways, I'm not here to talk too much about that. Overall, I think the interior, this cockpit, is a really nice place to be. At an MSRP of around $58,000, this car feels every bit of that in terms of quality. Also, because some of you were asking in my last video, how does this compare to the IS500? Well, in terms of overall interior, I prefer the tech of the TLX Type S. This has all the driving aids you could ask for compared to the IS500, which is lagging just a bit. These systems in the Acura definitely work better. But as for design and quality, I think the IS500 still might have a leg up on this TLX. Let's just fire this thing up and take it for a spin on my favorite road and see how it performs. Sport Plus. Manual mode for the transmission. VSA off. 10-speed automatic. And honestly, it's no ZF 8-speed in terms of shift speed, but it's not slow either. It's pretty responsive on both the up and down shifts. Very quick steering ratio. It helps this car feel a little bit more nimble than it perhaps actually is. See, that's what I hate about this transmission. It will auto upshift when you get to red line, even in manual mode. What's the point of the manual mode? The steering is pretty numb. A part of that could be the all-season tires, but even that 2023 I drove with the summer tires, not much feedback at all from that front end. But I do appreciate that this transmission has very short gear ratios. It keeps the engine in its power band at all times. Not that this is a particularly high revving or peaky engine. It actually makes really good low end and mid-range torque. We can actually see here on this gauge cluster where the engine is sending power through this super handling all-wheel drive system. Now coming out of corners, it should be diverting most of that power to the rear axle and to the outside wheel specifically. But I have to say, driving it on a road I know like the back of my hand, the car definitely feels just a bit disconnected. The steering doesn't talk to me really at all, and when I get on the power or turn into a corner, there's just a little bit of vagueness. I can't quite tell what this super handling all-wheel drive system is trying to do. Let's try a little straight line pull here. Adequate straight line performance. It's not M3 or M5 territory whatsoever, but for under $60,000 this car's quick enough. But the steering is just not great. Really just can't tell what the front end is doing or how hard I'm pushing those front tires. You know, it feels like it has good grip, especially having all-season tires, but it's just not communicating that back to me. Good high-speed stability, and in Sport Plus, these dampers are maxed out in terms of the damping, and it feels really good. The suspension is a highlight of the car for me. Said that in the last video, and that still holds true right now. It's firm, but not overly firm. There's no bounce, there's no jiggliness to the ride. See, that auto upshift, so annoying. Oh, that was a big delay on the downshift. That was like a 2 to 3 second delay before it finally gave me that 3 to 2 downshift. This transmission is such a mixed bag. I respect the shift speed and the smoothness, especially around town. Oh, what did it just do there? Lurched from second into first when it came to a stop. Also, the throttle response in Sport Plus definitely feels sharper now, but I wouldn't say in a good way. It feels a little too touchy, a little synthetic, if you will. The brakes have good stopping power, but also quite touchy. Really feel connected to the brake pedal. A bit too video gamey for my liking. And all of that just gives me a sense of nervousness when going into a corner. The corner entry feel of this car is just unnatural. Let's try dialing it back into sport mode and see if this feels a little bit better. There it is with the auto upshift again. Not even going to bother with second gear. It's too short for this road. wish there was more steering feel. I know this car has the front end grip, I just can't feel where the limits are. Oh, the suspension's really good though. It handles these conditions, these bumpy conditions on this road really well. Yeah, this car's a mixed bag for me. On the one hand, I absolutely love this as a daily driver. The combination of tech, especially Acura's suite of driving aids, this amazing ELS 3D surround sound system, it's even better, significantly better I would say than the system in my Acura Type S. The build quality, these seats, the comfort, really good, especially for the money. But the driving dynamics definitely hold it back. See, it's auto upshifting. What's the point of the manual mode? I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but a word to all manufacturers: if you're going to give a performance-focused vehicle a manual mode, do not let it upshift, especially before redline. It clearly shows the redline at 6,200, but this will auto upshift before 6,000 RPM. So the redline in this car is completely pointless. Might sound like a minor nitpick, but for the way I drive, that just doesn't cut it. This car's driving dynamics are unfortunately a bit of a disappointment. Where I think they knocked it out of the park with the Acura Type S, this TLX Type S is much less of a performance-focused vehicle, in the sense that it just doesn't give me the level of control I expect from a Type S product. It does hide its weight pretty well with the super handling all-wheel drive system, I'll give it that. And the suspension, I wouldn't change anything about it. I think it's fantastic. But it's not quite enough for me to consider this car to be a truly excellent sports sedan. And maybe for potential buyers, that's fine. This isn't trying to compete with the M3s or M5s or the C63s of the world. This is going against cars like the Cadillac CT5V non-Blackwing and some of the Korean offerings in that sort of semi-sporty sedan segment. But primarily, this is a sedan that is great looking, very high quality, easy to drive, practical, great to live with on a daily basis, and a great value for money. But if you're looking for that edge in driving dynamics, you're not going to find it in the TLX Type S. Big shout out to Acura for providing this brand new model year 2024 TLX Type S for review. Let me know what you think of this updated facelifted version. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.